You are listening WCEG talkradio.com. You can see us on Watch TV, Smart TV. You also can watch our videos on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can check all the content in WCEG Network. We are the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. The comments and suggestions on this program are not responsibility for WCEG Network.com. This is our bilingual place, and for the next hour, I'm gonna be your guest. Thank you. Buenos días, mi nombre es Ramona, estamos en nuestro lugar bilingüe. Estás escuchando WCEG Network. Pueden mirarnos por Smart TV, nos pueden dar un like en LinkedIn, Facebook y ver nuestros videos en YouTube. Danos un like, por favor, si te gusta el contenido. Los comentarios, las opiniones de este programa no son responsabilidad de WCEG Talk Radio. Good morning. So today I'm going to present our guest. Is Miss Valencia Stovall. She's going to be with us. She is running for the, she's candidate to the Congress for the 5th District. Les voy a presentar esta mañana a Miss Valencia Stovall. Ella es candidata al Congreso por el 5º Distrito. Y les voy a recomendar, pongan atención porque estos son nuestros candidatos y así podremos hacer una decisión acertada en las votaciones. Y siempre, no olviden votar, ¿ok? Thank you so much, Ms. Stovall, to being with us today. It's Saturday and very early.
Yes.
After the whole week working and working. But please let us know a little bit about you.
Okay. Do I need to stop in between so that you can do the translation?
Oh, we are gonna pick up the information and I'm gonna give the resume at the end so we can have, free time to talk about, because I have several questions that are very important. So I want to recover that at the end. Thank you.
All right. So I'm Valencia Stovall, a native of Atlanta, mother of 2. And, right now we have a deficit in leadership in Congress. And that is why I decided to run for Congressional District 5. I have 30-30, which is 8 years as a state legislator, where I sponsored and co-sponsored over a dozen bills that were actually signed into law. I have 30 years as a small business owner and 30 years experience as a community advocate. And my platform is very simple. It is the buck, the book, and the ballot. The buck is rejuvenating our economy. The book is reimagining education. And the ballot is voter empowerment and government accountability. And those are words I first heard from the late Mayor Maynard Jackson, who was the first African-American mayor of the city of Atlanta and of any southern city. And my dad, actually, Levitt Stovall, worked up under him as his community liaison. So, when you think about all of those things and, historical, especially the book and the ballot, and it was only right for this particular seat, which was previously held by the late Congressman John Lewis.
Yes, thank you so much. And very important, you are touching very important subjects that really are, we all are living right now and are crucial. The empowerment for a small business, the education, and also the right to vote. And I wanna ask you about, we all are feeling the struggles for this financial situation, how a small business are, surviving, or do you have some strategies to help, on that topic?
Yes. So, as you know, our small businesses make up about 60% of the businesses in America. And more specifically, the reason they are important is because they're the ones who usually hire the people in our community. And whenever a business closes, it is devastating for our community because there's no longer, not only the people can't work, but the services or goods that you were purchasing from that business is no longer available. And so, it's important for us, on the federal level, where we have the Small Business Administration that's there to be able to offer those more support, especially what has happened with the pandemic. It has caused a lot of pressure on our small businesses that many of them have had to increase their pricing a lot, for goods and services. And as a result, now with inflation, and I just heard with their increase on the interest rate. So you just think of a small business that may have had to take out a loan or have to do some other things, and even on a personal level, because small business owners are entrepreneurs who have their own family to take care of. So it is going to be a lot of pressure on the small business. That's why we have to make sure they get the support that they need so they can continue to survive and be able to provide those goods and services that many of them do very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true and very important. I have seen a lot, when you went driving, you see the stickers on the back of the vehicle saying support the small business. So a call to the audience and everybody, consume for this business, because that is energizing the small business and making grow the business, but at the same time, because you see a small business have a lot handmade things, like very good products that we personally produce, so that is very important. And I call for the audience and everybody encouragement to do that. And in terms of education, Mrs. Stovall, we know that, there is right now a lot, children are missing so much classes for COVID, illness, other situations. But also we are looking, personally, I have seen an increase of young teachers, very young teachers. So what are the strategy on that subject? Helping young teachers to be better, and how everything, this situation, how our representatives can help on that situation.
Yeah, so, the education is structured depending on the Department of Education, and that's where a large number of funding that comes down to the states that then give it to our local school districts and other schools across the state. And so because of that, we have to look at our schools. When I talk about reimagining education, they need to be student learner focused. So it needs to be focused on the individual student needs. And I think that once we're able to change our school districts and focus of schooling that is on the individual child's need, which we call student learning centered, then it'll allow our teachers to better be able to practice their profession of teaching. And if we get them the resources that they need in those classrooms and allow them, take away a lot of the paperwork that they are bombarded with. And that's one of the things I hear a lot from those who are young in the profession. They just say it's just too much. And even when you look at the pay compared to the amount of responsibilities that we have for our educators, they're not equal. And so making sure that we are able to increase the pay for our teachers as the professionals that they are, giving them the resources. And then there's a lot that's going on with the mental health of our teachers as well. And having to juggle between classroom and then their own family life. That's a lot to take on. And then even with that, the mental capacity of our students. A lot of times the teachers have to spend a lot of their early time when they get in the classroom trying to deal with behavior issues. And those are things that kind of make the younger teachers, those are younger in the profession, say, I don't want to deal with it. I'll just go into another profession. So we have to be able to come together in the education community and bring in our community and business partners as well to see what we can identify as the help that's needed so that our children will not continue to be behind. They were already, many of them were behind before COVID, and now COVID just made it worse, that we're trying to push them into, hey, you got to get up, get on level, but many of them are still not, and they need that additional help. So one of the ideas that I did come up with, some of our departments are underutilized, and one in particular is the National Corporation for Community Service. A lot of people know it as AmeriCorps. And so AmeriCorps provides college students with a stipend, being able to pay for their health insurance, childcare. In exchange, they have to agree to 1,700 hours of community service. And also they allow them to be able to use another set of money to pay off their student loan debt, or if they want to go continue to schooling, they can do that. So I thought about, what if we expand that program out to not just include college students, but other adults that may have the time and want to participate. And then we set up a program where they can be volunteers in the schools to help our classroom teachers, and even help with, around the school district. I think that'll help lessen the workload of our teachers. It'll give more tutors, to be able to directly help and assist with our students. And then we bring in our nonprofits to be able to help manage the volunteers, because it's too much to put it all on the schools. And then now you have a community that's working, because many nonprofits already work with the families and the students anyway, outside of school time. So now you're building a community that has a focus on making sure our children are successful.
Mm-hmm. That is very important, and I think it would be worth, the time and the effort and the investment to expand this program. And I found very useful for those who are, trying to figure out what they want to do in the future. You never know, you can find a career on education, but also in mentoring, that is very important. And talking about, Mrs. Stovall, about the mental illnesses, mental health, how how the representatives are working on this. Have you seen, or have you been promoting some efforts to support all of this in the schools?
Well, I'm no longer in my elected position. I was a state representative, so I have since 2020, I was no longer elected, but still being active in the community and watching and seeing everything that's happening in the whole healthcare field. And so making sure that it's affordable, accessible, and non-discriminatory is very important. And because of that, when you're linking up mental health, you have to there has to be insurance, to be able to help cover that. And right now, a lot of the students who end up in need of insurance, or even with their parents, because we don't have a robust Medicaid or Medicare or whatever insurance that covers everyone, then a lot of our communities that can't afford it end up going without or get lesser quality of health insurance. And so because of that, you have to have the resources there, because you can kind of tackle one thing with the students with tutoring and getting them on board. But mentally, if they're not there, and if their families and parents are not there, then you kind of have no wasted effort, because they're not going to pay attention. There's so many other things that are going on, even now, still trying to survive through COVID. And so having those resources there are very important. And they have to be that we are looking, like I said, looking at the total child and the whole total family.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. And talking about, I have seen your career for several years already, and I know you're very active on the community, on different subjects, working with small nonprofits and business, and also very involved in education with young people. And this is something else, but how you do that, because I know in some point, with all this responsibility, but with the community, but how you cope with with the stress.
Yeah, when you're doing something that you love doing, it's not as stressful as some people may think it is. And because I have a heart for public service, my family has a heart for public service. And I like to see giving people opportunities so they can be successful. And because I served in the legislature and I was able to see some things on a state level that really needs to be changed. And a lot of it had to do with government accountability. And a lot of times I would hear issues going on with the constituents. They called this particular department, they didn't answer, or they received a notice, they didn't understand what it meant when it came to the schools, all kind of issues, and it all related back to government accountability, and which means that understanding what the responsibilities are of the elected official, that's that voter empowerment part, and then being able to say, well, hey, I know this is supposed to take place. And a lot of times in government, there's a lot of red tape, unnecessary red tape. And even when you're using common sense, it just doesn't make sense. Even the whole thing that happened with the rental assistance program, all of the requirements and paperwork that they were requiring was backing up the process time for the people to be able to receive the assistance. And it was, not using common sense. Even with the whole thing with the unemployment that happened during the pandemic, it's still happening. Common sense factors, didn't play. It was, okay, well, we're going to do this. And you ask, why do you need to do that? Nobody could give you an answer that made sense. Even with education, a lot of it's common sense things. And so kind of trying to deal with the stress is definitely prayer all the time. And in just understanding, your purpose and what it is you were sent here to do. And then when you're able to hear later on what people have said you've made an impact, on their lives, it gives you more strength and more motivation. It was, and I'll shortly share with you this one particular incident that happened recently. In about 3 years ago, myself and a couple other community people, we came together and developed an environmental assessment survey project. And we did it at Forest Park High School with some high school students. And there were several of the ninth graders that were there, but they ended up participating in the program. We took them out and showed them how to interview people. They came up with all the questions, and we made sure it was student led. And they just needed some structure with leadership. And then from there, these students were shy. They had not, done anything like that before. And now to hear 3 years later, I actually ran back into this particular student that was participating in a student forum that I didn't know he was even going to be there. And when I saw him and talked to him, and he said, Ms. Stovall, I remember you coming to the school, and because of you, I now had the confidence today to speak. He's going on to college, graduating this year, going on to college, and majoring in political science. So who would have thought, that influence, and you never know when people are watching, but just having, from 3 years, starting in ninth grade, and then now graduating. And there are so many stories like that, around, the state of people that come back and say, hey, because of you, this was able to happen. So when you ask, how do you deal with the stress? It's looking at, I've made a difference, even if it's just one person. The time that I spent and the sacrifice, is worth it because I was able to make a difference.
That is amazing. And thank you for your answer, because, the sense to interview a candidate running for a position, I feel it's very important to show that part too, the personal part and who is really the candidate. So thank you for that, Ms. Stovall, and you're right. I think we all that do work on the community, that is the reward for everybody to see we change lives. So thank you for that. And I'm very it was very interesting what you say about redistricting. In one of your emails, you provide us information. And I would like you to talk a little bit about that, Mrs. Stovall. So now are new areas you are covering after the redistricting?
Mhm. Yeah, so the redistricting, it happens every 10 years because of the census, which is required by law. And so when the census takes place, it does a population count. And then with the population count, the whole purpose of the census is to make sure that people have fair representation in government and fair representation when it comes to resources, money that is sit down when budgeting is done, whether it's on the local level, state level, and of course, on the federal level. And so because of that, the 10 years had passed, which was 2020. And then that next year, then the redistricting happens. And so it's, like I said, it's supposed to be based on population, based on race as well, to make sure it's fair. Is it always fair? No, that's why people end up challenging it and going to court and looking at it. So for Congressional District 5, the new district now that is redistricted will be, it takes in all of the city of Atlanta, takes in all of East Point, all of Hateville, a portion of Sandy Springs, Emory, the North Decatur area in downtown Decatur, and a part of Southwest DeKalb near Columbia down to Canada Road, all that area. And then it comes in, it takes in a portion of Conley, a portion of Forest Park, and a portion of College Park in Fulton and Clayton County.
Okay, so
that's it's about 780 something thousand people that the new district now would represent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that means that area is what you represent, right?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting to know and very important to know for all the people on these cities to know who is the person going to lead it and check it out. And you also are working on the ballot, the border education, right? Can you talking about a little bit about that, Mrs. Stovall, please?
Okay, when you asked me about the board of education, explain to me when you asked, was I working on that?
The border education, how you are working with the community in educating them about their rights to vote, and how the process have changed, because I hear there are some changes that the governor did, right?
Yes. So one of the ways, of course, is through like yourself as a host on WCEG talk radio. And so I do that. And then sometimes I also do some town hall, different town hall meetings just to kind of keep them abreast. Because a lot of times people don't understand the process. Mm-hmm. And when they don't understand the process, they kind of get discouraged when it comes to voting. And one of the things I always tell them is that voting affects everything. The policies affect everything that you do in life. Before you come out of your house, how your house is structured, whether you have heat and air or whatever it is determined by policies. And when you don't vote, then you allow the small percentage of people that do vote to make a decision on your lifestyle and what's going to happen to you in your community, at least for the next 2 years or next 4 years. So that's why it's important to vote. And then even with the Board of Education, so all of the districts, the Board of Education districts, the county commissioners, and some of the city council districts have been redistricted and changed because of the difference in the population. So that's the shift, and that's going to happen with that. As far as the education part, and there may be some rezoning of some of the students who may have was zoned to attend one particular school. They may find out when school starts back that they're no longer zoned for that particular area. And so the parents definitely, would pay attention to that. But for the voting part of it, I did want to express, and again, that they can check their voter status, because you want to make sure you know where to go vote. So right now it is early voting, and it's from May the 2nd through the 20th. But so right now there's specific locations you can go to within your county to go and early vote. And when you go in, they will pull a ballot based on your name and where you live. So even though that might not be your regular precinct, that's the machine is going to pull it up like that. Now on election day, which is May the 24th, the primary election day, you have to pull either a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot in order to vote for the primary. So I will be on the Democratic ballot for May the 24th. But on May the 24th, you only can go to your precinct that you're registered to vote at. So in order for you to know where that is, you will go to My Voter page, and you can Google it on the website, My Voter page. And once you pull that up, you'll put in your first initial, last name, your date of birth, and the county which you were registered in. And then it will pull up your voter profile for you, just for you. And it will show you your voting precinct, and it'll also tell you who all will be on the ballot. You can look at a sample ballot. That way, before you go, you can go and research those candidates that are on your ballot. And now if you know someone that stays in another part of town, their ballot might not be the same as yours because they stay in a different district. So that's why I was trying to stress that it's important to pull your ballot so that you can see what your sample ballot is, and to make sure that you're registered and you know what poll to go to on election day if you decide not to go for early voting. And even if you look on there, early voting locations will be on that same profile as well. So you won't have to try to figure out where you're supposed to go.
Mm. Thank you for that information, and very educative, because many of the times, like you say, people don't know the process of how to check, information, very important information. So I have a question. So that's why, because recently I hear a friend and she was asking me, they sent me a letter from the school, and I was thinking my child going to go to the local school, but not. He going to another school. So that is a result of the redistricting, the zones?
Yes, so that's what happened. That's why they end up receiving a letter where they may have been going to a school for the last 10 years, and especially if they were kindergarten, they started in kindergarten, and now they're going into, let's say they're still going to be in 5th grade when school starts back. Well, because of the 10-year span, they may not be going back to that same elementary school. And so, but when I was as a state representative, I never did like the zoning of school zones, because I think that limits the children's ability and limits the parents' choice, because they may not want their child to go to that particular school. They may want to go to another school that they feel is better fit and suited for them. And so, I had introduced legislation, and it didn't get out the committee, but it was to take away the zoning of school zones and allow parents to attend whatever school district that they want their child to attend. And it should have been their choice for them to be allowed to go to that particular school. Because it may be, they feel that school, another school that's not even in the district, or if it's in the district, it might be on the other side of town, is a better fit for their child. And only a parent knows, or parents know what's best for their child. But right now with zoning, you're restricted for going to that school in that district according to what the school district or the government says what school your child has to attend. And I don't think that that's fair, because all the schools are not equal when it comes down to education and delivering of education. They're not. If they were equal, then yeah, you could do the zoning. But we know that they are not equal. You have some schools that when you walk in the building, you get greeted very friendly. People are excited that you're in the building. You go to another school, it's like they had a bad day and they're taking out on you, and you're trying to figure out, why did you even come to work today? And the same thing with some of the educators, some of the administrators. You see a difference in the environment, or the climate of the school is even different when you walk into some schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very hard, and especially for example, my friend lives very close to the school and she don't drive and she don't, they don't have license, and it was a benefit for them, but now they are struggling, to thinking going far, and then like you say, it's a different place, different community for both, for parents and children. So I hope, on the future it can get considered, and it can be done something. Yeah.
Well, I would like to suggest to them to talk with the school system, contact the school board, and make a request for special zoning permission. And let them know the circumstance that she's in, because a lot of times they may, it's up to the school board or the superintendent's office to do that. But I would definitely suggest that they make that request, to them, and explaining that, hey, I don't have any license, and I'm actively involved in my child's school, and I want to stay involved, because that's the ultimate goal with school districts, are to say we want parent involvement, and they say that a whole lot. But sometimes you wonder, what does parent involvement really mean, and at what level is it that we want parent involvement? And so because that parent is very concerned and probably always active, then that's the case that they were making, explain it to the school district that, hey, I would like for my child to stay here because I'm used to this school, I've been involved in this school, and plus I don't drive, and I don't want to take a chance of driving to another school when I'm right here and it's close by me. And so many times they will take that into consideration, because they still leave enough space in the school for special considerations for zoning requests.
Yeah, that is a very good option, and thank you for that, because many people don't know what to do. That is why it's very important to listen and ask to people what to do in the situation, and talk about the situation people is living, because it is important for not only for the leaders in our community, but also community workers in schools and hospitals and recreation centers. So these can come to big leaders, and at least if something is not able to do in the moment, but there are options. So that means so much. Thank you, Mrs. Stovall. And so right now, do you have any events, any events where we can meet you and we can know you? Some activity?
Yes. So I have an event that's coming up on next Saturday, May the 14th, from 1 to 4 p.m. And it would be at the Black Coffee Company on the corner of Sawtell Avenue and Jonesboro Road in Atlanta. And let me see if I can find the address right quick. Yeah, let me look up. It's called Black Coffee Company, and it's on the corner of Sawtell Avenue and Jonesboro Road in Atlanta, in Southeast Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that'll be next Saturday, May the 14th, from 1 to 4. And sometimes we'll be probably out in some different places. We haven't locked down the other locations right now. And, we don't have about almost 2.5 weeks left before the primary election that's coming up. But they can always go to my website, gostovall.com, GOSTOVALL.com. And if they have a location they would like for us to come and visit, and they might have some people they would like to invite to do a meet and greet, we're definitely open for that. They could send an email, hello@gostovall.com.
Okay. And if you get to the Congress, Mrs. Stovall, what are your strategies to continue working in Georgia?
Yes. So continue working on those issues with education, because education is the foundation for success for our young people. And when you look at the increase in crime that's taking place now, A lot of it has to do with lack of vision and direction for our young people. And a lot of times when they don't have a vision or direction to kind of know what they're talented in and what direction or what careers they should go in, we don't have enough career focused programs in our schools, even starting in middle and even as early as elementary, but more specifically in middle and high school, because those ages where they really start trying to figure out what are they going to do. And so that focusing with education, apprenticeship programs, making sure that every child graduates with a trade. That way, that child is put into a better position to be able to take care of his or herself or a family if they, have gotten a family at that time. And one thing about a trade, and as a business owner, that you could take that anywhere in the world. Nobody could ever take your trade from you. And so we want to make sure we put them in a good position to be able to be productive citizens. And the only way you do that is making sure that foundation and education is there. And like I said about the small businesses, supporting them, even support for our senior citizens. There are a lot of issues for senior citizens and people with disabilities that they're facing. One of them in particular, which is, like I said, it's a lot, but one particular is mobility in transportation. And so a lot of times our seniors are facing challenges with getting to and from their doctor's appointments, and also even just going to the store or just going anywhere. And then if they're in a wheelchair, whether it might be mobile, electric, or manual, some of our sidewalks and crosswalks are not conducive for seniors and people with disabilities. So making sure that any new, fixing the old ones, and then any new construction that's being constructed in the community, that they are not knowledgeable about, and making sure they're compliant with that. Because just think of you getting ready to a senior crossing the crosswalk and they only have 20 seconds. There's no way they're going to get across the street in 20 seconds. And so those little things like I talked about earlier that are common sense issues is making sure that we're looking at affordable housing. We talked about earlier the increase in inflation and the interest rate, which means that housing costs are going to increase. But if you don't have a well-paying job that is sustainable, then you can't afford to be in housing anywhere, let alone whether it's a rental apartment or whether it's even purchasing a house. And so that's why I talked about that, still that foundation of education and workforce development. We have a shortage in healthcare. And so we have to make sure that we're looking at that. That goes right back into what I talked about, accessible, affordable, and non-discriminatory healthcare. Veteran services or another. Those individuals who have served our country should not be suffering the way that they are, and their families should not, because they sacrifice a lot so that we can have the freedom that we have here in America. Another thing is talked about veteran support, a robust system with our justice system. Is making sure that when individuals are returning back from serving their time in prison or incarcerated, that we have programs in place for them. And there might be incentives that we increase incentives to give to businesses, small businesses, to be able to hire them, or even putting them into entrepreneurship situations. But making sure even if they have to go before the court system, that it is fair, and that those who are not doing what they're supposed to do, that they are prosecuted in a timely manner when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, whether it's the police or individuals that end up taking away our freedom and right to be able to exist in society. We should not have to be fearful to go to the store. We should not have to be fearful to just go to the park. If we want to go walk in the park or anything leisure that we want to do, even driving our children to school, we should not be fearful. We should not have to live in a fearful society because of those who don't want to follow the rules.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I like what you say about people serving time in jail. Many of the times, and we have seen situations where a person served the time and they go out and every door they knock is closed. And then that may worse the situation. So just to let these people know that they have to keep knocking, because many people is, able to give them an opportunity and change the way their lives come. And I hope, more and more people got that conscious and be open to give opportunities to these people. And and you do life, because these people now, because they were in jail, this means that they are bad forever. That is very important. So, Mrs. Stovall, can you remind me again your website, so people can get more information about you, and also the information for the events?
Yes. So my website is Stovall. It's GOSTOVALL.com. Or you can just Google Valencia Stovall and it'll come up. I'm on all the social media platforms at Valencia Stovall. And again, on the voting, it's very, very important, because if you, on election day on May the 24th, if you go to the wrong polling location, you cannot vote. Your vote won't count. So that's why it's important to prepare yourself ahead of time. It's just like you're going to the grocery store. And if you go to the grocery store, you haven't made that list, you're going to end up overspending. So what we want you to do is, before you go to the polls, is to investigate, get out, know exactly where you're going, know what time the polls open and close, and know who it is that's on that ballot. So you're going to go to My Voter page, and you can Google My Voter page, Georgia. And it's going to bring up a website. When you get to that website, you're going to put your first initial, your last name, your date of birth, and the county where you registered to vote. And once you put that in, a profile is going to come up, and it's going to show you a sample ballot. And even if you want to do absentee ballot, which means that you don't want to go in person to vote, you would like a ballot sent to your home and you want to vote, and then you'll mail it back in. You can do that as well. And that selection is on there as well, on your profile. And so everything that you want to know, and who your current elected positions are, they don't have the people's name, but it does have the district numbers. And you can just take the district numbers and Google it. And say, for instance, if it's School Board 8, you could say Fulton School Board 8, and it'll bring up that person's name. And so that's who you would contact now. If you're having any issues, like the individual that you talked about that was having issues with that, even though that person may not be registered to vote, but if she finds someone else who is registered that stays in the same area, then she could still reach out to them, because she's still a constituent, whether she votes or not, or he votes or not. They still are constituents, and those children are eligible for free education. And so we want the parents to be involved, with them with their education, so that they can have a better chance and opportunity after high school, graduating from high school.
Thank you so much. That is very important information that people now have to watch very close on that. And Mrs. Stovall, the last question for you before I translate all of this. Do you still keep working with students, DACA holders? Do you have seen any change on the law in Georgia about that topic?
Yes, I think there was a recent change, because I haven't been in the legislature, but I believe there was a change that allowed the students to be able to have in-school tuition. I know at one point it came up in a bill, and I believe it did pass. And I believe I don't know if the governor had signed it or not. I don't know if it was this year or last year, but I know that there was some legislation that was introduced about allowing DACA students to have in-school tuition. And I know when we talked a couple of years ago, that was definitely an issue. And the way that I look at it is, like I said, it's an investment. And if the students have been here, they didn't come here on their own. They weren't old enough to come here on their own, but they are here. And so because they're here, we need to make sure that they have access to quality education as well. And then once they have that and they decide that they want to go on to higher education, then eventually they're going to become productive residents if they're not citizens. If they weren't born here, then they become productive residents in our communities, which means they'll be paying taxes and all of that. So it makes for a better community than someone who doesn't have the right education and did not have the opportunity or have to work so many extra hours because they're being charged out-of-state tuition when they have graduated from a Georgia high school. So that never made any sense to me. And I think that even on the federal level, it's making that easier process for them. And even an easier process if they wish to be citizens and stay here, you know, in America and want to become citizens of America. And so I think that looking at the whole immigration process, we definitely needs to be revisited. And talking to the people that are actually going through the process of trying to become citizens. You know, how does that work and what are the things that they've seen? Because a lot of times I found, Ramona, is that most people want to do right, especially those who are not citizens here. They came here to America for a reason, for better opportunity. And being able to talk to them, I have many friends and that I talked with. And even when I was PTA president at the elementary school and middle school, we had a large community of people that were non-citizens. It wasn't just, you know, of Latin descent, but of, you know, that were non-citizens. And being able to talk with them and understand, you know, what the situations are, helped me to be able to be a better person, even when I became elected, because I was sensitive to those situations. And so that's why I'm able to kind of talk about DACA, because I asked a whole lot of questions. And even when I found out, I was like, what? Why do they have to pay so much for out of school tuition? They stay here. You know, they went to school here. It's different if they didn't graduate from a Georgia high school. So those kind of things, I think, like I said, are common sense situations. And when you say we want a better place for everyone to live and everyone to be productive, you know, all of that, not taking away from nothing else from anybody else, but allowing the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. And like you say, there are people with DACA for years and years and years. They have career, they have family, they have business, but they don't have the legal status, you know, the permanent status. So it worth to review, you know, legislation about these people and see hopefully on the future everything can change. Because, you know, it's dealing with all kind of people, but especially on my community, is very hard and very stressful, you know, that they can renew every 2 years, but maybe because something happened, you know, out of control, you can lose that status, you know, and have your whole life here in United States. So hopefully everything can change for good for everyone. So thank you so much, Mrs. Stovall, to talk to us. Thank you for your answers. And I'm going to translate. And please do not forget, if you want to vote early, you have to do it now from May 2 to May 20. And the main election is May 24. And check, I encourage you all to check not only the profile, the professional profile, but also relate to the personal profile and make sure this person really care about it, about the things that you care, because, you know, they've been there. They are there living every day the same situations. So let me start translating, Miss Stovall.
Okay.
So, buenos días. Hoy tuvimos el honor de estar con Miss Stovall. Ella es candidata al Congreso por el 5º distrito. Hablamos hoy con ella de diferentes temas muy importantes que todos debemos poner atención, como por ejemplo, las estrategias de ella es trabajar en forzar a los pequeños negocios económicamente, a apoyarlos, a darles una guía de cómo salir adelante financieramente, apoyarlos a empezar el negocio y pues seguir trabajando. Y para esto ella alienta a todas las personas y yo también a consumir localmente, así podremos hacer crecer al negocio, pero también estamos consumiendo cosas propias que nosotros mismos pues necesitamos en la vida diaria. Son cosas muy pequeñas que a veces dice uno, toma uno mucho en cuenta y se va uno a tiendas grandes, pero si vemos por el lado pues conveniente de todos, esa es una buena estrategia para nuestra audiencia, darles ánimo a hacerlo. El otro punto de estrategia es la educación, reforzar la educación. Y una pregunta que yo tenía, viene a colación todo esto del censo, del cambio de mapa, las áreas que ella y cada representante ahora están liderando. El censo se hace cada 10 años. El resultado del censo es cómo se divide el mapa de las ciudades. Pero también el censo trae consecuencias, como por ejemplo, si un niño iba a una escuela, ahora vamos a decir, está en la primaria, va a la middle school y después tiene que ir a la high school, pero a lo mejor en la high school, después del censo, a lo mejor la high school que todos van, ya ahora no van a poder ir porque cambió el mapa y ahora tiene que ir a otra escuela. Como por ejemplo en el caso de ella también, antes ella servía a algunas comunidades o parte de algunas comunidades de algunas ciudades y ahora después del censo ella cambió el mapa y ahora ella está sirviendo a otras partes. Ahora, después del censo, ella va a estar sirviendo en el 5º distrito. Ella va a estar sirviendo toda la ciudad de Atlanta, toda la ciudad de East Point, College Park, parte de Fayetteville y Forest Park. Entonces, son cosas que tenemos que poner atención en cómo influye nuestra participación como ciudadanos residentes viviendo en este país y la importancia de ejercer nuestro voto, nuestra participación en el censo cada que viene. Y pues son cosas que tenemos que poner atención. Ella, en otra estrategia que ella también está trabajando, es en el voto, en educar a las personas de la importancia que es el voto y cómo influye en nuestra vida diaria. Como les acabo de decir, cambia todo totalmente, las zonas de trabajo, las zonas de nuestra escuela, el servicio de nuestros hospitales, todo. O sea que hay en consideración mucho que pensar y considerar al tiempo de ejercer nuestro voto. Quiero recordarles que si ustedes quieren votar de manera temprana, lo pueden hacer desde mayo 2 hasta mayo 20. La gran elección es en mayo 24. Entonces, los animo a todos a prepararse, los que puedan votar, a prepararse y pensar que es importante votar, no solo para ejercer sus derechos, pero también para ejercer los derechos de las personas que no pueden votar. Otra cosa importante que yo quiero dejarles saber, ella nos dejó saber la opción que tienen algunos papás, si su escuela de su niño cambió por conveniencia, pueden ir a hablar o a hacer una petición ante la Junta Directiva de Educación, dejarles saber su situación y pedir que por favor les dejen estar en la escuela que le correspondía antes del censo para no tener que hacer cambios. Por ejemplo, si usted no maneja, por ejemplo, si se le hace difícil el cambio de espacio para su niño, vale la pena hacer el esfuerzo de ir a hacer esta petición para que se quede en la escuela que normalmente le pertenecía antes del censo. Recuerden, Si ustedes quieren checar más información sobre Valencia Stovall, vayan a Google y pueden poner Go Stovall, así como se escucha, .com. Allí pueden encontrar toda la información de ella, sus trabajos, sus próximas actividades y eventos. Y por favor participen, que es muy importante, edúquense, qué representantes tenemos, cuáles son sus estrategias y cómo podemos participar con ellos para que nos puedan ayudar. Tenemos que hacernos escuchar. Otra cosa, tantas cosas importantes, antes de ir a votar, tienen que ir a la página My Voting Page Georgia, así My Voting Page Georgia. Allí les va a aparecer una pantalla donde tienen que poner su información importante, bueno, la básica información para encontrar allí la información si ustedes están registrados ya, cuál es el lugar que les pertenece para ir a votar. Porque una cosa, si ustedes no van al lugar donde les pertenece, no los van a dejar votar. Y queremos evitar todo eso y queremos ejercer nuestro voto. Entonces, más que nada, esto fue lo que ella nos dejó saber. Entre otras cosas, ella también nos deja saber la importancia que tiene para ella como persona, no nada más como candidata a una posición, es la importancia que tiene para ella personalmente, trabajar con todas las personas de la comunidad, conocer las necesidades de las personas en la comunidad, involucrarse en los problemas de la comunidad. También ella tiene interés en reforzar leyes que tengan sentido para la comunidad, por ejemplo, la comunidad de la edad mayor, a hacer acomodaciones para estas personas, a tratar de abrir programas para estas personas, para personas que han salido de la cárcel y no tienen una guía ahora después de todo eso. Y como es nuestro interés de todos nosotros, cómo está el asunto de DACA. Sigue trabajando, ella sigue creyendo y apoyando esta comunidad, creyendo que pues necesitan oportunidad de estar aquí permanentemente, pero ustedes saben, tenemos que seguir trabajando y tenemos que apoyar a nuestros candidatos, tenemos que apoyar a nuestras personas que están trabajando para nosotros y también muy importante, más que todo eso, ejercer nuestro derecho, nuestra opinión y qué es lo que queremos para el futuro. Educar también a nuestros hijos de la misma manera a que debemos hacer lo propio. Debemos hacer nuestro pedacito de trabajo para que las cosas cambien y tienen que cambiar para bien de nosotros y bien de nuestros hijos principalmente, que son los que se quedan aquí batallando y siguiendo la vida. Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Stovall. I hope everything going well with you. I appreciate so much the time and just good luck in everything because you are doing really good in everything,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity. And definitely I understood a few words, especially Escuela, Nino, some of the ones I remember, like I said, when I was PTA president and I had my best friend who would translate, for doing, so I learned a few words that was always customary whenever we had a meeting. So I didn't understand everything, but, keywords I did.
Yes, and like I say to my students until this day, look, English and Spanish are very similar. You pick up the similar words and you have the message. Yes, thank you so much. And look, if you want to check out our videos, go to WCEG Network. And very important, go to Stovall, Valencia Stovall in Google and you find everything about her. Thank you, Mrs. Stovall, for your work, and thank you so much, WCEG Network. And I want to see you next time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.